Welcome to It's All About the Questions, where learning to ask the right questions can help you achieve lifelong success. Now, here to help you ask all the right questions is award-winning author, international speaker, and business strategist, Laura Stewart.
Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. It is so great to be here with you today. It's a chilly morning here in Florida. I think it was 55 or something when I got up early this morning. But the crispness in the air just reminds me of fall up in New York and that moment when the world begins to shift. And there's so many possibilities as the seasons change. And as everyone knows, my mom passed away. Tomorrow will be a month. And there's so many seasons of grieving and of life and of careers and of love that we all go through. So I want to thank everybody again for all of your amazing support and love. I posted something up on Facebook today. I haven't really been on there much because social media has been a little difficult. But I want to thank everybody and your donations to St. Jude's Children's Hospital for pediatric cardiac surgery in honor of my mom, who wanted that funded because my brother passed away 44 years ago. From a heart issue and needed multiple cardiac surgeries. And, life is a journey. It is something that every season of your life, things will change for you. And my guest today is a dear friend who I've been trying to think about how long we've known each other, but it's easily over 20 years. Maybe she'll be able to figure it out. Is Marian Edvardsen. She's really just been there for me forever, and we've been there for each other. She's guided me, helped me, and since my mom passed, she's even stepped up even more if that was possible. So my friend Marian Edvardsen is my guest today. She is so passionate about inspiring and empowering you to live your best life. She's a certified passion test facilitator. She teaches self-care tools, which are pretty much the only thing that's gotten me through this last month, including EFT, also known as tapping, essential oils, just trying to focus on the positives, even while you're grieving, can help. There's nothing wrong with being sad. Matter of fact, it's a part of life. But I want to welcome Marian Edvardsen to my show today because, she's a dear friend and she has so much to offer you, my listeners. So Marian, thank you for being here.
You're welcome, Laura. Such a gift to be your guest today. We've like you said, we go way back and back to some old networking and our past careers, and so we go through that circuitous journey through life, and you stay with the people who really matter to you. So you do matter to me, and we've gone through lots of paths together, and I see way more ahead that's going to be fun and supportive and all those things.
Yeah, I still remember that day that you were about to give birth to your wonderful twin boys at a later stage in your life. And George, your husband, was not close to the house. He was over an hour and a half away. And I still had beepers. Remember pagers and beepers? And you said, if I paid you, come get me because I'm in labor. And the snowstorm hit that morning, and you lived on a street that's a steep, steep hill, and my whole staff was like, okay, how do we get to Marian if she goes into labor?
Bring a sled.
And they're all like, okay, well, my car, we've got the snow tires, it's heavier. Okay, we can do this one. Well, worst scenario, several of us will walk up the hill and we'll carry her down to the car. Those were some fun days. I'm sure not for you with the worry of, oh my God, am I going to go in labor and nobody can come get me?
And we didn't have to worry about that. Everything went smoothly, and my boys are going to be 14 next month, so we've come a long way.
I cannot believe they're 14, and my guess is they were going nuts during the playoffs for the World Series, but since they are total baseball junkies and Yankee fans, you guys are all sad. So am I that the Yankees didn't make it, but I'm excited Houston did because I think Houston just needs this right now.
needed that, just as New York needed that back and the games were so wonderful back in 2001 when New York needed that excitement and that
just that boost.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 9/11 really hit so many of us so hard over there, and I know you lost a family member during 9/11.
Right, exactly.
Now, when you and I first met, you were in the finance industry, and right?
Yes, I went from kindergarten teacher to Wall Street, and it was just a funny, again, circuitous journey in life, moving to New York City. And at that time, I didn't really want to get into the New York public school system. That was a tough area to enter. So my boyfriend at the time, which was my reason for moving, we move around life for different reasons. He was going to law school in the Wall Street area, so that's where I hit the employment agencies, and that's how I landed in financial services for the next 32 years. But they were some of the most fun and growth-oriented years of my life.
And some pretty high stressful times as well during that. Being a woman in that industry in the Wall Street area could not have been easy.
No, and it was challenging, and in a good way, because you stretch yourself that way and you step up to that challenge, especially in those times of adversity. And I was quite the merger survivor. I survived quite a few mergers over those years, and it was that last merger that just back after 2008, which the whole environment changed, and I said, this doesn't serve me anymore, and my clients kept changing, so I couldn't serve my clients really the same way. And I was getting to that point because I had always been attracted to the personal development industry of helping people be who they are meant to be in this world. And I was very attracted to that, so I started to pursue my life coaching career and made that shift after I got downsized, and actually gratefully so. I never really looked back.
It's interesting that you say you had always been interested in the personal development area, because I remember when you and I sat down and we went over some of my financial things at the time, I was always like, wow, you don't approach finance from the usual perspective, because you really wanted to understand me as a person. And I know financial people try to understand your goals, but it was more than that. You wanted to make sure that the right thing was in alignment with my goals, and that also you stretched me into that slight uncomfortable zone when, you might not want to look at finances, and you made it easy to do that. So I think you were always in it. Just now the focus is no longer the finances lead-in.
And the finances are an important part of your life always. That can lead to some of the most stresses in your life. And so I can approach what's going on in your life from a whole different standpoint with some of the tools to help you plan and help you address the stress. That's actually where the EFT or tapping, or EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. That's where that started to come into play, because, I've always I teach positivity. My book that is coming out, I won't say is I hope to come out. It will be coming out within the next year, and the title is Step into Happy. 26 simple steps from A to Z to, for loving your life. And because I teach positivity, I want people to live that wild, audacious life that we all are meant to live. But there's always that other side, the stresses, the limiting beliefs that say, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time. All of those things come into play and stop you from living your passion.
You're getting into the EFT, and the tapping came at a really horrible moment for so many people in Connecticut. And you've really run with that. And I have to say that not a lot of people would have stepped up the way you did, but we don't have enough time to go into this next question. So we're going to go to commercial break right now, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk some more about Marian's journey. Marian, you got involved with EFT and tapping when Sandy Hook happened. What made you decide that you could help and how you could help?
Oh, that's such a sacred place that I don't. It's hard to talk about it because it's so delicate, and I mean, just like 9/11. And at the time when I was doing my coaching, I started getting involved with EFT, and I realized how effective it was for just calming. And as I mentioned before, I teach positivity. That's what I'm all about. But there's that other side that is so difficult, and it can be from a limiting belief to a horrible tragedy and trauma that can happen in your life. And so, right at the time when I was trying to figure out really how to deal with that piece of it for people individually, was right around the time of the tragedy. And so being a mom, of these twins who were about 8 at the time, we all were affected. I live about 45 minutes from Newtown, and we all across every border and in the entire world were affected by that horrible situation, because these are 6-year-olds. How can that happen to anybody? But it being so close, I said, how can I serve? What can I do to help? And at the time, Nick Ortner, who is one of the top EFT practitioners in the world, reached out to his community and said, I really am looking, I live in Newtown. How can I bring this to the community? So he had reached out to Dr. Lori Layden, who had worked with the orphan genocide survivors in Rwanda and really turned a community around using EFT, where 1 million people had been massacred and family members experiencing that. So Nick called up Lori and said, what do I do? And Lori was on the ground in Newtown 2 days later and didn't leave for 2 years. And they invited a group in. They interviewed or just reached out, and actually I was one of 35 to be part of this kind of founding group to create a global, a new model for stress and trauma relief healing in the world. So through that process, I was certified as a level 2 EFT practitioner. And while I never worked directly with the community, now I have been working with them through lots of different avenues, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The licensed practitioners are the ones who worked with the first responders and the family members. And at the same time, a colleague down in Tennessee had a vision, and she was working with essential oils and said, how can I get these oils to Newtown, because they're a very high, they're doTERRA essential oils, and they're very high grade, pure therapeutic, certified therapeutic essential oils, because they work on an emotional level as well as a physical level. And doTERRA, which was a relatively small company at the time, ended up donating a lot of essential oils and came up with a protocol of 13 oils that would deal directly with the trauma and the shock, and being able to support the body systems, and the brain, as essential oils can do, pair so beautifully with EFT. And to this day, the practitioners who still work with the community start every EFT and end EFT sessions paired with essential oils. But to become part of that group and just to learn about self-care and to be able to be present to and bring this back to our own communities, to be present with family members or in the community, and to be able to teach a self-care tool like EFT so that we can be prepared to handle the most horrible situations to even small things that are holding us back from living the life that we're meant to live. I do an EFT and essential oils class monthly at my church, and every time people come in, and often stress and anxiety feelings are the things that people want to address when they come in, and through that process, and grief. You can tap on anything. You can tap on physical pain. You can tap on grief. You can tap on anger. And what EFT does is by tapping on certain meridian points in the body, it can calm that amygdala, which is that small gland at the base of your brain, which is your fight, flight, or freeze reaction in your body. And it can calm that so that you can function on a more normal level. So physiologically, what EFT is a cross between ancient Chinese acupressure and modern psychology.
Yeah,
it really has a scientific basis for being able to calm us so that we can face life with a more everyday, balanced approach.
I find EFT really fascinating because it works so quickly, yet it's not as mainstream as I would expect it to be. And I've had an EFT practitioner on here my first year that I had the show. And it's just fascinating to me how simple it is, yet how quickly you can connect in and how deep the work goes. I mean, stuff comes up when you're doing it sometimes that just blows your mind. And coupling that with essential oils and connecting you to your own passions is just this perfect trio of ideas and methods that can make such a huge difference in somebody's life. Now, when you were going through the Sandy Hook stuff and learning the EFT, was there any piece of advice that you were given that helped you hold your own self while you were helping somebody else through their struggle?
The beauty and the gift in this whole process by learning EFT under such circumstances, the message was that we have to learn our own self-care and deal with our own stuff, because what we have goes back to childhood. When we're children, we have no filters, and that changes over life and gets affected by childhood traumas or things that happen in our life. And so until we've dealt with our own trauma and hurt and pain and struggle and stuff, then we can't be present for another person. And so that's why self-care, teaching self-care for the practitioner, self-care for the parent, self-care even for a student dealing with examination or school stress, that's so important, and to have that tool that we can just bring home and do ourselves. And so it's so much like that flight attendant who says, put your own oxygen mask on first, and then you can take care of those around you. And that, to this day, is such an important piece. So that when we can be present to ourselves through a place of calm and compassion and love, so that we're not going to be triggered by someone else's traumas and just personal needs and grief or whatever that is, we can be there for that person.
Yeah, it's fascinating that you mentioned that particular thing, because as I wrote in my Facebook post today, there are a number of people that have just told me, you need to stop. We can't talk to you. You're crying, and you need to stop grieving. And whatever. And all I keep saying to myself, because people like yourself have said to me, okay, that's them. You need to work through your process, and it's okay, to go through those 100-foot waves of grief when they hit. It's really interesting, the people who have surfaced that are able to be present with me and allow me to go through the wave. And the wave's so much shorter when I've got somebody like that with me or on the other end of the phone versus somebody who's telling me, don't grieve, stop, don't cry, because then the wave just seems to last longer. And we're going to come back with more from Marian Edvardsen after the national news break. She is a dear, dear friend of mine, a passion test facilitator, certified in essential oils and emotional freedom technique, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. If you're listening to the Hot Podcast, hope you had a good half second or a nanosecond break. For those listening to us live on iHeartRadio, hopefully you started thinking about your own state of being and whether you feel that you're in a good place or not in a good place. And no matter what place you're in right now, it doesn't matter, because it's the place you're in. And one of the things I learned through this grieving process and over the 54 years of my life, it really came through at my parents' service, was step by step, breath by breath. It's okay to be wherever you're at. Just take that step by step to move forward into the next place of being. And Marian, we've talked about this for the first half of the show, that whole understanding where you're at and being okay with it is also a large part of it. When you're coaching your clients on moving forward, on positivity, on having their best life and finding out what it is that they're passionate about, is there any one or two questions that you pose to them that seems to help shift them?
Well, in addition to the questions, which, you are all about the questions, and I love that because that really does make the shift. Well, so one question is, what makes you happy?
What makes you happy?
What makes you happy? What are you not, and then what are you not doing today that you think is stopping you from just living your happiest, best life?
When he said what makes you happy, I'm like, oh, that's a simple question, right? Yet I have struggled with that question for so many years because I'm not really sure what it is. I can tell you what might make me happy in a moment, but don't know overall what makes me happy. Being happy was hanging out with mom, doing things, being on the radio, those kind of things. Is that what when you're posing that question, is there some layer of answer to that lets you know that the person has really connected to the truth of what makes them happy, or whether it's a surface thing?
Well, as you know, I mentioned that when we're children, everything is unfiltered. So when you watch children play, it's all just innocent and fresh and pure. And so often if someone is stuck, I may say, what did you have fun doing as a child? Sometimes you might want to take them back there, or have them go through a visualization to kind of talk to that child and just talk to that child within and ask them. Like you said, I might know what makes me happy at this moment, and right there is a place to stop and say, well, let's do more of that, and then try to expand on that a little bit more, because all of a sudden we get stuck between, well, I should be doing this and I should be doing that because my parents told me I should be doing this, instead of what I really want to do. From watching the Cubs, especially the Chicago Cubs, doing their happy dance in the bullpen when something happens during the game, or just watching Jimmy Fallon, he is just having fun in life. Everything that he's doing in every aspect of every interview and every person who he talks with, or, playing music. What music makes you move? What are your favorite songs? And that might just evoke, oh yeah, and that brings a memory in. And so let's go there a little bit more.
Is it possible for just doing what makes you happy, for it to become destructive? And I want to clarify that a little bit. I was talking to a friend last night, and I was really sad. And they're like, have some ice cream. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't really eat a lot of ice cream. And they're, and it brings back memories of every night mom having ice cream. And they're like, well, you probably have some ice cream in the house still. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not my favorite flavor. And it was one of Mom's favorite, cherry vanilla. And they're like, well, what's your favorite? And I'm like, well, have you ever tried Breyer's Girl Scout Cookie Thin Mint ice cream? And he's like, no, I've had it with Girl Scout cookies, and I've had Breyer's ice cream, but never combined. And he's like, I can hear it in your voice. It makes you so happy. You need to go get it and eat a quart of it. And, I almost turned around and went back to the store and got some. And then I was like, I don't know. I know that having that is not something I can just stop myself. When I have it, I eat it, and it almost feels like it's trying to stuff myself or artificially make me happy. So is there a line on things like that?
Well, you said two things around that. One is that might make you feel better, and then that person had said, well, go eat a quart of it.
And I know they were joking with me, but you know what I mean.
No, but that could trigger something, and that might force you to, or have you look at your choices. So if you always keep your choices within what would make your life ideal, like with the passion test, we say when you're trying to identify your top passions, when my life is ideal, I am. And then you would list what your top passions are. And if part of that is to live a happy life, and part of that is to live a healthy, fit life, and we stay aligned with that, then we're not going to make a choice that is going to go against living that happy life. So we might have a cup of ice cream. We're not going to eat a quart of ice cream.
And I know that Breyer's Girl Scout Cookie Thin Mint ice cream, I can't stop.
And I've never had that. I might just have to go try that now.
It creates that happy inside, and I was trying to figure it out why, and it kind of leads back to the essential oils. They actually have oil of peppermint in it.
Oh, well, there you go. And the oil of peppermint is the oil of a buoyant heart. So peppermint can actually support on an emotional level and maybe get to that heart place that we need to get to sometimes.
Can you just ingest oil of peppermint, or do I need to get it through my Girl Scout Cookie Thin Mint ice cream?
Well,
which also has chocolate and other things in it, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, there's, and I only talk about this with doTERRA oils because I trust them. Most oils that you're going to pick up are going to say not for internal use. But because of the level of testing that doTERRA does, you can look at a bottle of doTERRA essential oils, and if it says supplemental facts, as it would say on your food container or your cereal box, supplemental fact might say 1 drop diluted in 8 ounces of water or something, which means that, and again, that's a choice, whether a person wants to do it, take it internally or put it on topically, and especially we're so used to essential oils being aromatically diffused. That's what people remember, or putting a drop of lavender on your pillow. You just, a drop can be safe to ingest, but you want to only do that with the right oils. Very, very clear about that one.
Well, that makes sense. So oil of peppermint is about the heart.
Yeah, on emotional level, there's a wonderful book called Emotions and Essential Oils that you can find on Amazon, and there's emotional. This goes back, really hundreds of years, because the essential oils have been around for a long time, that they support on an emotional level. So yes, you can look at the emotional aspect, and I know that oils peppermint can be about a buoyant heart.
Interesting, because, they always say that smell is a major trigger for memory, and it can come from anywhere. And my mom always wore white shoulders, so I've kept a bottle of it nearby, and when the grief's really bad, I just open it.
Mm-hmm.
So are there any particular oils that you have found in the work that you're doing? And you know what? I think, Mr. B, we're going to cut out to commercials so that we can go over this next part about some essential oils. Marian, we'll be right back after this commercial break, okay?
Sure.
Marian, before the break, we were talking about oil of peppermint and Breyer's Girl Scout Cookie Thin Mint Ice Cream, and you said that oil of peppermint is for a buoyant heart. What are a few other essential oils that are great to just have on hand for emergencies and to help us through life on a daily basis?
Oh, I have my favorites. My favorite, I think, is wild orange, which on an emotional level is the oil of abundance. And when I mention that, these are directly from that essential Emotions and Essential Oils book that I mentioned before, that you can find that on Amazon. But wild orange, the citruses, first of all, and again, what we like to do is really go back to what oils could serve you. What are your top health concerns or lifestyle choices? What do you want to change in your life, whether it's taking the toxicity out of your house, which might be diffusing lemon, something as simple as a lemon, or our protective blend, which has clove and cinnamon, which can actually kind of clear and push away just some of the pathogens that could be in the air. But wild orange, the oil of abundance, is so uplifting and refreshing. It's just one that I actually carry around in my pocket a lot.
Well, it's interesting because, I'm based here in Vero Beach in Indian River County, which is the heart of citrus for the U.S. Indian River County citrus is known worldwide for our oranges, and they're just coming in. Now, granted, a lot of our crop got damaged by Hurricane Irma, but they're just starting to pick the oranges and the grapefruit and stuff, and we're starting to see the fresh things. And normally you'd smell the orange blossoms in the air as they're coming at different points during the year as the oranges are ripening. So that's perfect that you mentioned wild orange while I'm sitting here right in the heart of orange country.
Now I'm going to have to get back down there because your oranges are amazing.
Yeah, they truly
and
are
when
special.
you squeeze the rind, the essential oil is that oil sac that is distilled right off of the plant or the root, or depending on where the oil is coming from. But with the citruses, it comes from the rind. So it's not the juice of the orange, it's the rind. And one thing to talk about essential oils, citrus oils, they're highly photosensitive. So if you swipe your neck with wild orange and you go out in the sun, you might get some sensitivity or, browning or tanning or, even a little bit more of, depending on how sensitive your skin is. So we always talk about the precautions also with essential oils and make sure that you're using them safely and putting your citrus oils on in a place that are not going to be exposed to the sun for 12 to 24 hours and, make sure that you're using them safely.
Okay. What's another essential oil that people should consider having on hand?
So 3 of my favorites are, we have a respiratory blend, a digestive blend, and a protective blend, which supports your immune system. So, especially this time of the year where you have the seasonal threats out there, you really want to make sure that your foundational health is supported, and the essential oils can do that so well. And so those are 3 oils. We have a family essentials kit that's 10 oils that actually start to replace your medicine cabinet. So what a beautiful thing to have just 10 oils in there instead of some of the other things that are filled with synthetics and fillers that often are not good for our bodies. So another reason why I love these essential oils. I can't believe that I didn't have them in my life or know about them prior to, just about 4.5 years ago. We have a set of 3 yoga oils that are just beautiful and subtle.
Yoga oils?
Yes. So we had an international yogi, Elena Brower, who, if you do yoga, you might know that name. She also uses essential oils extensively, and she worked with doTERRA to come up with 3 oils, Align, Anchor, and Arise, that you can use throughout your yoga practice because, again, the oils can work with your body to help align or anchor you, ground you as you're doing your breathing exercises or your meditations. They're a beautiful set of oils. There's lots of different groupings of oils that we can use so beautifully.
I love the whole idea of essential oils combined with the tapping, combined with passion test, because it helps you clear the different layers of what's going on, because sometimes you can't see what's next because you're stuck in the past. I've been listening to a lot of Joel Osteen lately because drives have been very difficult because I'm alone with my thoughts. Even when listening to music, I'm like alone with my thoughts. And the last thing that I can deal with is a massive crying jag while I'm driving on the highway at 70 miles an hour. So Joel Osteen is full of positivity and things like that. And one of the things he talks about a lot lately is if you're stuck in your past, you can't see your future. So where do you choose to dwell? How have you found that essential oils have helped you move forward? Or your clients?
Well, one of the things I learned when I first started to learn about essential oils is essential oils soften the soil of our memories and our emotions in a safe way that they can help you get to where you need to go. And what I learned so beautifully with the oils, and especially with EFT, that we can look at where we are today without judgment and just say, this is where I am today. If we don't acknowledge where we are today, we can't get past that because what we resist persists. So as with your grief, you can't just say, okay, time to stuff it and move on, because you're not going to work through it that way. And what did someone say once? The best path around something is through it.
It's funny because my dad always said the opposite.
What did he say?
My father always said, if you keep hitting a wall, just stop and look to either side or above it or below it or behind it, because sometimes the best way through it is to step back and reevaluate. And it doesn't always have to be so hard as going through that brick wall.
Well, in a way, that's similar, because if you have to work through something and you're stuck there, sometimes that's just something to notice what you notice and just say, just acknowledge that you're there. Acknowledge that wall is there, and that might be a reason to go do a yoga class, or you don't want to keep hitting your head against the wall.
And I just got that you meant through it, not meaning bash your head through it, but the best way through it is best way forward is through it. You can't avoid it, but there might be an easier way to get through it than just going straight ahead. I just got that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that, my dear friend. Just that just like washed all over me. In my whole being right now.
Or as Yogi Berra always said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it.
I love Yogi Berra.
Knowing that you're a baseball fan.
Yeah, and I grew up in the Yogi Berra era, and
you did.
My first job offer was from the Yankees. I didn't take it, but it was my first job offer. Billy Martin, George Steinbrenner era. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're coming to the end of the show. How can people reach out to you, work with you, get some essential oils or whatever? What's the best way for them to reach you?
I think the email would be the best. And feel free to email me just to ask questions. And if you have any questions about any of the things that we talked about, my email is pretty simple. It's WeBeHappy, which are actually my son's initials, WeBeHappy22, because they're twins, at me.com.
I love that. And so it's WeBeHappy22 at me.com. I never realized that was their initials, but yeah, it so is. Oh, man. I want to give a shout out to your amazing 3 men in your life, because they are pretty spectacular and amazing men. So if anybody wants to reach out to Marian, you have a question about oils, you're interested in a passion test, maybe you need some EFT, it's WeBeHappy22 at me.com. Last thought, about 30 seconds long, Marian, that you'd like to share with my listeners?
Just that we all are, unique, dynamic, beautiful, divine beings, and that we are meant to live and serve and just be happy. So I hope that you pursue that and live every day that way. And Laura, thank you for having me on your show. It was such a special day today to have this gift. Thank you.
Yeah, it was totally awesome having you on. I'm glad that we were able to do this today, because you're a special person in my life.
Well, and you are in mine.
Everybody, where you are in your life is a moment in time. And step by step, breath by breath, I wish for you that you can take that next step into whatever's next for you. And remember, everybody, the right questions truly can change your life. So what are you asking today? Hug somebody you love, and most of all, have a happy and special day today. Have a great day, everyone.
You've been listening to It's All About the Questions, starring Laura Stewart. Connect with Laura at it'sallaboutthequestions.com and download a free workbook that will help you ask better questions starting today.